What's going on, everybody? This is Maurice Wright, and I want to welcome you to Market Insights, where I try to help people who are just getting started in investing make sense of the market, investing in stocks and options, and strategies that they can use to invest. So, I've been getting a lot of questions about options. So, I thought I would take a little deep dive into options and try to explain them the best way that I can so that people can understand them. So, the first thing we're going to go to is things you need to know about stock options. So, the first question is, what are option contracts? Option contracts are agreements between a buyer and a seller for the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell 100 shares of stock at a specific price before a specific date and time. There's two types of options. There are call options and there are put options. You can do one of two things with option contracts. You can either buy them or sell them. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm only going to touch on buying options, which is enough, to say the least, to try and explain. In another video, I'll go into selling options, which is a whole different topic. So for right now, we'll look at what is a call option. A call option is the right but not the obligation to buy 100 shares of stock at a specific price before a specific date and time. What is a put option? A put option is the right but not the obligation to sell 100 shares of stock at a specific price before a specific date and time. And keep in mind, all option contracts represent 100 shares of stock. So you can't get option contracts for 50 shares of stock or 25 shares of stock. They have to be representing 100 shares of stock. And all stock options expire on the third Friday of the month that the contract is in. So option contracts can range from different dates in time, but they all expire on the third Friday of the month that the contract is in. And I'm going to give you some examples of that when I switch to my trading platform, which of course is one of them, is TD Ameritrade, Think or Swim. Now we're going to take a closer look at call options and give you a better description of how they work and why you would use them. So for this example, I pulled up an option chain of Apple stock. Now, on this option chain, you will notice that there are numbers on the left and the right. Now, usually on a trading platform, calls will normally be on the left side and puts will be on the right side. In the middle, you will have your expiration dates. And over here under strike, these are the prices to which you would be buying the right to buy the stock at these prices. Now, if you look up here, the last price for Apple was $116.97. Now, the example that I'm giving you is an option contract that I've done myself last week. So, going to a little deeper into this options chain, this number right here is what we call implied volatility. Implied volatility, in short, is just the percentage move that's expected for the stock on or before this expiration date. Now, this expiration date is April the 16th of 2021, which is in parentheses 187 days in the future. The number right here in the parentheses represents the implied volatility number of the price of the stock. So if the stock has a 44.41% implied volatility, that means that it has a $30.72 range up or down from the 116.97 price of the stock. So what I'll do is a little math. We're just going to round this up to 117 plus, we'll go with 31 equals 148. So on the high end of this expectation, the stock can move $30, $31 up to 148, or 117 minus 31, or down to $86. So this is what these numbers represent. This is the percentage of the move of the price of the stock, and this is the actual number that it can move up or down within this time frame of 187 days. The options, the demand for the options are saying that they're expecting a $31 move up or down from the price of 116. Now, I give you that for a specific reason, because once you learn how to use this number, this will help you in determining what strike price you want to pick when you're doing your options contract. So for example, when I added this up and got to the 148, what I did was went in April and I went down and I looked at the 135 strike. And at the time that I bought this call contract, this contract was going for $725 per contract. Now, all contracts, remember, represent 100 shares of stock. So when you buy a call contract, whatever price you pay for the contract, you multiply that by 100, and that gives you how much money you have to spend in order to buy that stock option. So as you can see here, the last price of this option contract is $7.32. So because I paid $7.25 for the option minus 725, I'm up $7 on my contract so far. Now, what this contract does is it gives me the right, but not the obligation, to buy 100 shares of Apple stock at $135 a share. Now, remember, you have the right, but not the obligation. So you don't have to actually buy the shares of stock. What you can do is, if the price of the stock reaches your strike price for your contract, your contract value will go up with the price of the stock. Now, one question would be, why would I want to buy the stock at $135 in April when the stock is $116 a share now? Why wouldn't I just buy the stock at the price that it's at right now? Well, the reason for that is because I believe that the price of the stock will be above 135 before April the 21st. And if the price of the stock is at or above 135, the contract that I bought for $725 will be significantly more than that. And one of the ways that I've been taught to try and estimate how much the value of that contract would be is to simply subtract the price of the strike from the price of the stock. So if we subtract 135 minus, we'll round this up to 117, you'll get $18. So then what I would do is I would go to the strike and I would go up $18 to find out what the price of the contract is, $18 above my strike price. So 135, 125 would be 10. 120 would be 15. We'll go to 117 and a half for $18. And at $18, this contract would be worth about $13.50. Now, mind you, I paid $7.25. $13.50 minus $7.25 would be $625. So that would be a rough approximation of how much your contract would be worth if it got to your strike price before the contract expires. Now, the faster that the price of the stock goes to or above your strike price, the more your contract will be valued. So if it gets to this strike before that date, the contract could be even more than $1,350 a contract. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of how much money you could make if you choose the right strike on a stock out in time with a call option. So in this example, I'm going to show you a stock called Shopify, which is an e-commerce stock somewhat like Amazon that helps people set up online stores. So in this example, we're going to go back and look at the price of this stock back in October of 2018, which was 2 years ago, because most contracts that are long-term are either 1 or 2.5 years out. So in this example, back in October the 1st of 2018, this stock was $163.42. Now, the reason I'm using this stock is because I was watching this stock back then, but I didn't have the money to play the option contract, but I've always kept up with the price of the stock. So let's look and say you did your research, you found out that this company had good earnings, good sales, and that they were growing and that the stock price was appreciating. So you wanted to take advantage of the price going up by buying a long term call option 2 years in advance. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the furthest option contracts that they had during this time, which were the January 21 contracts, which expire this coming January. Now, had you have bought a contract for this stock based on the expected move of the stock in the next 2 years, which was $87. So what we would do is we would take the price of the stock, 163, and add the expected move to it, which is $87. You would come up with 250. So you come down on the strike price, look and see if they have a 250 strike. Now they didn't have a 250 strike, but they had a $240 strike. So what we'll do is we'll simulate buying the 240 call option in January of 21. Now I'm going to make this just one contract. Now, as you can see, this contract was going for $24.45. So if you multiply 24.45 times 100, which is what this contract represents, 100 shares of stock, you would pay $2,445 for the right to buy this stock at $240 a share before January the 15th of 2021. Now, if you're just new to option contracts, you might think that $2,445 is a steep price to pay for one option contract. What I'm about to show you is going to be a shock. Now we're going to look at how much this option contract is worth in today's dollars 2 years later. And by the way, we're using the Think Back tool on the Thinkorswim platform. So if we look up today's option, which is still in effect, it doesn't expire until the 15th, January 21. We're going to scroll down and look at the price of the 240 strike. If you look right here, the bid is 852. The ask is 860. Now, when you're buying contracts, you will always buy at the ask. When you're selling, you will always sell at the bid. So the contract that was going for $24.45 in today's dollars is now approximately $852. So if you would have had one contract of this and you held it all the way until today, your $2,445 investment would have gained $83,185. And that total does not include the price that you paid for the contract. So that is the reason why people buy option contracts, because if you're right and the stock goes above the price at which you bought the contract for at that time, this is how much your option contract could appreciate. And this is just one contract. And there are people who trade option contracts for a living. And this is how much money you could actually make off of this. Now, in this example, not everybody is going to be that lucky to pick a $160 stock and have it go to $1,000 within 2 years. But just as an example, I wanted to show you, if you get this right, just how much money you could actually make doing this. And what you could do is just sell your option contract and deposit this money in your account. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at an ETF, XLK. And the reason I'm doing this ETF is because this is almost the equivalent of a mutual fund, which means this is a basket of stocks that are invested in technology. So if you didn't want to pick an individual stock, what you could do is pick an ETF that holds a basket of stocks and then buy a call option in this. So, and in this example, we're still going to go out to the January 15th, 21 options. This says it has an expected move of $17 up or down. So again, what I would do is take this number, add it to the price of the stock. We'll round the price of the stock up to 76. We're going to add $17 to it. That'll give us a price of 93. So what I'll do is I will round that up to 95. So again, we have an option contract that is $27.05. Now, all option contracts won't be this much. And for some reason, I think what it's doing is it's giving me the price of how much the option contract is currently instead of what it was then. Let's see here. All right, so it was giving me the wrong prices, so I've got it correct now. So in this example, the January 21s had an expected move of $22 from the price of the stock. So if we add 22 to 76, you'll get 98. So we're going to scroll down and look at the 100 strike price. You could do either one, the 95 or the 100. Just for the sake of arguments, we'll go with the 95 strike. Now it says back then it was going for $2.65, which means that you would have been able to buy one contract for $265 for the right to buy 100 shares of this stock at $95 when the current price was $75, which means that you had a span of a little more than 2 years for the price of this stock to move $20. So now what we will do is take a look and see how much this contract is worth in today's dollars 2 years later. Right now, this contract is between $21.80 and $22.50. So let's see what the spread is in between these two. 22.50 minus 21.80 will give you 70 cents. So what I'll do is I'll split the 70 cents in half, give it 35 cents, and add 35 cents to the 21.80. 21.80 plus 35 cents. So the contract should be going for somewhere around $22.15. So if we change this to today's calendar, we'll see how much money you could have made had you have bought this contract 2 years ago. And right here it says that you would have made $2,397 off of a $265 investment. Now, it's not the extreme that the Shopify did, but you have to understand that the Shopify stock went all the way to 1,000. So that's the difference between those two. Now, the reason for buying an option contract with a strike price above the price of your stock is for a little thing in the stock market called positive drift, which basically means that the inherent structure of the market tends to go up over time. And with that knowledge, you would bet that the price of stocks would be going up in the future. So the best way to use a call option contract in this case would be to buy it out in time to give yourself enough time for the stock to actually go up in value. And another thing that I didn't mention is that with all contracts, the closer that they get to expiration, the more value they tend to lose. Now, it's just in the nature of option contracts to lose a small amount of value every day. Now, the shorter the duration of your contract, the faster your contract will lose value. The longer out in time you put your contract, the lower the amount that the contract will lose over that length of time. So, in using this strategy of buying contracts that are long dated, you're giving yourself enough time for the stock to move without the contract losing so much value that it won't be worth more than what you paid for it. So now I'm going to give you an example of why you would buy a put contract. Now, a put contract is the right but not the obligation to sell someone your stock at a specific price before a specific date and time. And basically, what a put contract does is it gives you insurance that if the price of your stock drops, if you buy a put contract, that you could ensure that you will lose no more money past the price of the strike of your contract. So let's take a look and see how this would work. As an example, let's say you were looking at a chart of your stock and it reached its high and then looks like it's starting to go down. So what you would do is at the high point of your stock, you would buy a put contract that would ensure that you would lose no money past the price of that stock. Now, usually put contracts are for people who bought a stock and don't want to lose any money on the way down. So this is a chart of Mohawk Industries, and we're going to go all the way back to June the 8th of this year and see what a put contract would cost over top the price of this stock, which would give you the right to sell somebody your stock at a price above this if your stock drops in value. So let's go back to our think back mode. We're looking at June the 8th. The price of the stock was $115 a share. We're going to look out to November of this year, which would give you 165 days for the price of your stock to stay above this price. And if it dropped, that you would be able to sell your stock at the strike price that you buy for your put. So what we'll do is we'll go $5 over the 115 strike and look at the 120 strike. So with the 120 strike, if you bought a put contract, you would pay $1,920 for the right to sell someone your stock for $120 a share. Now, if you're buying a contract to ensure that your stock won't go down, the person that's selling you the contract is betting that the stock will go up. So depending on which direction the price of the stock goes will determine who will make money. So we'll change this to one contract. And then we're going to look at what the price of the stock would be a little less than a month later from this date, June the 8th. And we're going to go to July the 10th. As you can see, the stock went from $115 to $70.47. But remember, we have a put contract, which means that regardless of what the price of the stock goes down to, you have the right, because you bought a contract at the 120 strike, to make somebody buy your stock from you if you have 100 shares of stock at $120. So you would have a choice. You would either exercise your contract, make them buy the stock from you at $120 a share, make $500 over the price that you sold the contract at, which was $115, or you could keep your stock. I did that wrong. You could keep your stock and gain $2,910 over the $1,900 that you paid for your contract. Now, in this case, if you have 100 shares of stock, I would exercise that contract and make them buy the stock from me at $120 a share. That way you keep all the gain that you got from the price of the stock going up, plus make an additional $500 because of the strike price that you bought your put contract at. Now, in describing option contracts in the beginning, we said that option contracts represent 100 shares of stock. So if that's true and you buy a call option represents 100 shares of stock. So in this case, if you bought a call option out in time for this XLK ETF with an expected move of $46, that would put you around $160. If we scroll down here, see if we can find a 160 strike right here. A 160 strike would be somewhere around $870. Now, because you would own a call option, what you could do is, if you thought that after you bought this call contract that the price of the stock would drop, you could buy a call option, you could buy a put option earlier in time, say 3 months out in January, to protect your 160 call option. Now, in this case, these options are $4,300, so we wouldn't be going that far. But just to show you an illustration, if you own a call option, you could buy a put option to protect it just in case it went down. All right, so that'll be all I'll have for tonight. I think that's enough to confuse everybody about option contracts, but if you go over this a few times, you should get this down somewhat. And if you don't, if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll get right back to you. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so that you can get notified anytime that I drop a new video. And if you find any of the information that I've given tonight helpful, Do me a favor and hit the like button. That helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps the channel out a lot. So until next time, I will talk to you guys later.